All right, Meat Puppets. Hello, how are you doing? How's the YouTube? How's your whatever? Let's get into it. All right, so today we're going to look at masking and mattes, M-A-T-T-E-S. Um, so before we actually get started, I kind of want to explain what masking and mattes do. It's basically being able to control your visibility of particular layers you want to show or hide. So to get started, I'm going to show you how masking works, and then I'm going to show you how mattes work and how we can use images and video to do um, some very interesting effects. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to create a composition. Nothing too fancy, just some words, right? We made this one about 10 seconds and press OK. All right, so here we are. My British accent, someone put in some words, SOM, words, all right? Once you got some words on the screen, it's actually not too difficult to create a mask. So here's how masks work. Masks can be created using your vector tools, such as your star tool, polygon tool, ellipse tool, rounded rectangle, and all these rectangle tools, right? You can also use the pen tool to create a mask. Essentially, as long as you have a closed path, it's going to create a mask. And let me just show you how that looks. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool just to create a really simple mask. So for example, we say masks control your visibility of your layers. And it's the same like in Photoshop, only in After Effects, it's just a little bit different. So let's highlight this. We're just creating a mask here. So essentially, we're using this rectangle here as a mask. Essentially, everything contained within this rectangle is a mask. That's practically how simple it is. You can always edit your mask as well, simply by clicking on um, the path, dragging stuff. You can even move your entire path there if you want to do something. You can even animate your masks as well. So the masks are here. You can choose mask path, and if you decide that you want to animate your path going across, you can have everything highlighted and just move them across, and you have some words. Now these are some things you can actually use for even your typography, kinetic typography. If you want to do some sort of reveal, it looks like this kind of an effect, right? Right, very simple effect, very simple effect, right? So that's masks. That's just one of the simpler parts. There are other features of your mask. Not only can you animate your mask, for example, the positioning, but even the shape of your mask can be animated. So for example, you want to move, per se, one part of your mask, like this one. So I've just clicked off it and just clicked on one of the nodes, and you can actually change the shape of your mask. So if you prefer like the middle of it, doing something like a diamond, right? And then jumping back to what it was before. Yeah. So if we look at the animation, first keyframe looks like this, last keyframe looks like this, middle keyframe looks something like this. And when it actually animates, it does this look, right? So that's animating your mask path. On top of that, if you extend your mask, right, let's just extend it again, you have things like mask feather, and I'm going to show you how feathering works. If you're familiar with feathering in terms of brushes in Photoshop, it's where you can make the brush a little bit more fuzzy or smooth. And what the mask feather does, it actually feathers out your mask so it's not as sharp. It comes out looking very much gradiented, right? So now, if you're animating this whole thing now becomes a feathered animation, right? You can actually animate, anytime you see a stopwatch, you will see that you have some masking allowed. You can also change your feathering. You can change a few things. Even beyond the feathering, you can change the mask opacity. So if you don't want your mask to be too visible, you can always lower the opacity of it, and that can also be animated, right? Right, so you actually animate that if you turn on the stopwatch. And you can change the mask expansion. So let me lower the mask feather so you can see exactly how expansion works. And it's not like a jutsu or anything like that. Right, so we go mask expansion, and if you lower it, it actually comes in. And you can also expand it to be outside the mask. And practically that's it for masks. Some other things you can actually do with it, for example, you want to do reveals where texts are jumping out of different locations. Now there's something to note about masks. Masks actually move with the position of your layers, right? So example, if you decide you want to move your layer down, right, your masks are going to move with your layers. So sometimes you might want to create an effect kind of like, let me just create a new one real quick. Jump, mask, right, jump, mask, whatever. Choose a text, so write the word jump, Jump. Oh no, this font is limited. What's another word for jump? I can't write hop, just P, up. Oh, jump is there, jump, right, cool. So we have the word jump here, and let's say I want to do something like this. I'm going to set my position here, P, set position, and have it jump up and back down. Right, and I also want to be playful with it. I'm going to play with my rotation as well. So we'll have jump, not only jump up and down, but I kind of want to do the easing, F9 again. So when it reaches the high point, it actually slows down before it comes back down. But not only that, let's play with the rotation so it can be a little bit more interesting. Let's say you just flung something up. Right, so it looks something like this. Right, and just to make it a little bit better for myself, I'm going to put this anchor point right in the middle. So hit A to control the anchor point for this. And I'm just going to move the anchor point to the center so it pivots properly. Right. And that's what we want to do. That's how we want it to look, and feel, and look, and feel, and whatever. So we have it rotating like this and jump. But let's say you want this jump to only appear after, for example, we throw down a line. So I'm going to throw down a line, a white line. And just do something simple. Let's just add a new shape layer, right? And I'm going to also add an ellipse or a stroke. But let's work with the stroke, right? Actually, let's just work with the let's work with the rectangle. All right, I'm going to make my rectangle path slightly larger in terms of X positioning, right? And I'm also going to add an effect called trim paths, but not before I need to add my stroke. So I want a stroke of about 2. Right, let's work with that. And even change a few things in the stroke in terms of nothing. All right, so trim paths allows me to trim my paths. So here's how the effect works. We have start and we have finish. I'm just gonna trim my path like this. Kind of like this. I just want to have a nice little thing here. And I can always do this. Cool. So I'm gonna have it do this. Let's call this jump or masking. I cannot spell things sometimes. All right, so we have this jump thing. We want this to do a start and an end, maybe from one side, perhaps the other side, right? So if we say this is 0, and we start off with this side, and we have the end side doing that, you just kind of want to just fix that. So maybe I'll put this at here, right in the middle, at 17, and this one, the end, is also at 17, or not. Yeah, there we go. I'll play with start and end, and we want jump to appear Oh, oops, let's move that back because jump stopped jumping before that happened. And what we'll do is just for here, just while it's jumping out, we're going to increase the size of this. Put that to 0 and carry this up some more. So that's going to be 38. And that's going to be, well, let's just work with that. Looks like this. Bam. That jumps out. And while it's closing back, what we'll do is pull this back in, like so, and this part forward like so, and just kind of gauge it. So it looks like this part is actually contorting to the shape of the jump. And that part comes out some more. But you can always hold CTRL to get a more precise measure. Right? And this comes out like so. This part comes in like so. And afterwards, everything's done. This goes back to 17. And this goes back to 17. So let's say for here though, the start is going to be more like that. And the end is going to be more like this. Alright, so I have that. That jumps out. Oof, that's too far. Alright, just tweak it as you go along. You cannot be allowed to go that far. Right, but the problem is now, this whole thing jump, ta-da. It's all a matter of tweaking it. Alright, so let's see how that looks. Right, let's say we're finished with that. Now remember we said that animations, if you're going to mask something, it usually, and if we were to do this example, say we said we're doing this and we want the mask to only show up afterwards. What happens is that this whole thing is masked, and that's not what we want. What we want is that we want the mask to jump out after we see all that niceness going on. So what I'll do is we're going to pre-compose this whole jump composition. Jump comp, right? And what we're going to do afterwards, where we have this, we'll create a mask over the composition itself. So it's going to be a little bit different. So I'll highlight all that stuff, just make sure I know where my line is. So I'm going to tweak that. Whoops. So tweak the mask to only show up after the line. What happens now is this. I'm just kind of hide that mask. Jumps out right there. So you're pre-composing the mask, you're masking the pre-composition. So everything is inside the pre-composition, and you're just masking that whole thing. So it's, well, that part needs a little fixing. So I'll just jump back into this composition, and perhaps that wasn't it. Maybe it was this one. Right? You can always jump back over here, press U, jump back over here, carry this down. I am. And then we just tweak that over a bit some more. Right? So let's say you like that effect. Do ya?
Yeah. Pretty cool, bro.
Right, so you always do that stuff and that jumps out like, oh, whoosh. Oops, my bad. Now let's say this line just isn't as satisfying as it could be. You can always add more to it. Add round corners maybe, Well, that didn't do anything. Okay, let's try a wiggle wiggle path. Right, so if you want your line to look more wiggly, as you can see here with wiggle paths, you mean and even increase the size that you're wiggling, or even the detail of your wiggling. Right, what happens now is this. It squash it out, it's like, yeah, looks kind of weird.
The art of the
Yeah. Ha! Wiggle seconds. You can even animate your wiggling. Right, so if you don't want a wiggle path, you can always set the size out to 0. It goes back to normal. That means you can actually animate this if you wanted to. Right, so that's one part of how masking works. That's masking. You can actually, so that's one way. If we're using, for example, that. Let's go back to some words where we actually mask out some words. If, for example, you don't want to use your mask anymore, you can always just highlight, delete it. It comes up again. Another way you can create your mask is by using your pen tool and just drawing your freeform shapes. And as soon as you close this path, let's say it's some really random stuff, as soon as you close it, it becomes that. Right? So you could always do some interesting shapes. So maybe you say, okay, I'd like a shape of Jamaica here, and then eventually turns into something else like Africa or Asia, or, you want to say, oh, we're all one people or whatever things, right? You can always morph your thing, your shape. Right, so that's masking. Let's actually jump to creating what I like to call, or what is actually called matte, M-A-T-T-E. So for that one, we're going to need a new composition. Oh, yes, M-A-T-T-E, matte. All right, so here's what we're going to use now. I'll just double click on this text. Matte. Not like words. Oh, wait, I do have one. There we are. Cool. So we have mattes. Here's how mattes work. Mattes are dependent on layers, and they kind of work like masking in Photoshop, except it's almost like you have to prepare for it to happen. So for example, I'm going to create an image in Photoshop. I'm going to create a few images actually, just to show you the example of how mattes work. So remember, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Let's create a composition, or a size of it is going to be 1080, 1920 by 1080. And we're going to create a few things. One, I'm going to create, for example, just a bunch of colors. I'm going to create a bunch of random blocks of things. Some big, some small, some gray, some black, some flotsam, some jetsam. Right, so different colors, different shapes. No, just the same shape. All right, let's continue. So we go filter and blur, Gaussian blur, and we're just gonna bring that up like a bunch. Press OK. Now we're gonna use this as one of them. We're gonna create another one. Let's get rid of this one. I'm gonna create this one as black, or black first, and I'm just gonna throw in some white dots all over. Yeah, left square bracket and right square bracket. So one is using black and white, some using shades of gray. And I'm gonna save this as well. Let's unlock this one. Last one but not leastly, we'll do one that looks kind of, actually let's just import an image. Let's go to Brave and glass brick. All right, let's use the colors of glass. Let me just change it. So I'm going to go to tools in Google size, large, but we want a specific size, so I'm going to choose not any size, tools, size. It looks like I can't search for the size I want anymore. Let's go large. So just pick one that's black and white and gray. I mean, this looks decent. I'll probably work with this. This is a nice one. And paste that. Oh, no. I said copy the image and paste it. Okay. Clearly, my this is broken. Save image as glass break noise. I'm just gonna drag that into this, and I'll just scale this in proportion. And just to kind of help myself out a little bit more, I'll rasterize you, and I'll make you black and white. All right, so now we have 3 layers. I want one more layer. So Control Shift N, and this layer is going to have a transparent image on top of it. And I'll just make it the colors. Actually, I'll make it red and blue or whatever. So it's oof. And that will be our shape. And let's say we're working with all these different ones. And I'm going to say this is a Photoshop document. Right. I call it mats. Yeah. The reason why I'm just saving all of them as one thing is because in After Effects I can always just import the different layers. So let's click on that and import what we need to import, which is inside week 4. It's really week 5, but mats anyway. All right, editable layer styles. Yes, okay. And we have our folder here, which has a whole bunch of different stuff in there. Cool. So let's work with the mats. So here's how mats work, right? So I'm going to change my modes, right? So we have in here our mat, and I'm going to work and show you how these work. So one, I'm going to use the first one I have. Just drop it in there on top, right? You see blacks and whites and grays. And I'll even do myself a solid and just lock this layer. So underneath the layer, so we're going to use the text as what we want to see. And inside, track mats have about 4 versions or 4 different options. You have alpha matte, alpha matte inverted, luma matte, and luma matte inverted. So for this one we have the black and white and gray. Luma matte really deals with the brightness and the lightness of the colors. So that's all your black, your whites, your grays. Alpha really just deals with pixel visibility. Right? So for example, luma matte here, I'm going to choose luma matte. And what you see is that inside this thing, where we had the blacks and the whites and stuff, you can kind of see that wherever the black was, and I'll just show you what that looks like. Wherever the black is, the visibility gets less. So it's kind of like in Photoshop where you have the black and the white and the grays. So you can always play with those and see the different effects you have. Now I'm going to put this right in front of this black spot here, as you can see again. And you have here another option. Instead of luma, we're going to use luma inverted, which actually flips it. So your blacks become the visible parts, the whites become the invisible parts. So you can always play with effects like those. And even the same thing with your videos. So if you have a video of smoke per se, and I have one here in the downloads folder, downloads, which I downloaded from somewhere, right? So example, we have, nope, nope, nope. So I'm going to import this fog background, and I have another one with ink, I think. Yes, those two I'm going to import. I also have a lens flare, which I'm going to import as well. And there should be one more, I think. One more, just one more, which I do not see. But I'm just going to import this wine glass break thing and press OK. Hey, we could even look at this QR code too, because it's black and white, you know. Right, so we press OK for that. And I also have some things here. Shoes, shark. Let's import the shoe. I think the shoe is I need to find a PNG. This one is a PNG file. This one is also a PNG file without a transparency image. So I press OK for those and import those. So this is just showing you how the Luma matte works. The Luma matte works with white and blacks and grays. So if I delete now this Luma matte, because I've kind of shown you the example of how that works, and we try using something else like this one, which doesn't have any grays in there, you just have blacks and whites. And if we use the Luma matte again, right, which we are, I'm gonna kind of hide that layer because it only works when you hide stuff. So we have this, you can see all where the blacks and the whites are. These are very solid shapes. You can get this look and feel. And if you have words flying across, you can have this thing where it looks like you can see through some cave or something. All right, so that's how Luma matte works. If I flip it again, like I said, to invert it, the whites become blacks and the blacks become white. So now you have something completely different. All right, so I'll delete this, and now we're going to jump to the other one. This one is a shape layer. Unfortunately, it doesn't have visibility. So let me show you something cool. I'm going to create a mask for this because we did masks before, just to show you how the not the Luma matte, but the Alpha matte works. Right, this will be our layer, and I'm going to show you something. So if we change this from Luma matte, right, because right now if we use the Luma matte, it's practically going to pretend that this red is gray. So imagine, even though it's red, and if you have the Luma matte, it's going to look for the brightness of the red and convert that to grayscale, and then that's how bright it's going to see. So if it's gray, it's going to be partially transparent. If it's not gray, or if it's white, so you kind of get to see that it actually is looking at how transparent it is. So the whiter it is, the more opaque it is, depending on the mode, and the darker it is, the more invisible it is. And then by looking at the transparency, you can kind of see how visible that really is. So that's how you can play with your mattes. So let's say we look at this video that we have here. We have this one that shows you some brightness and some oof, yes, some awesomeness. All right, it stopped working. Cool. So let's jump back to that again. So I'm going to delete this mask, and we're going to just throw in a video this time. But this one for ink. Let's see what that looks like. Oops, sorry. Ink footage. Just pull that across, and you get ink splatters and all these different wonderful things. And you know, you can always toss that there and get this nice effect that we have. So let's throw that ink inside here. Same mattes again. Ooh. Right, so here's what we have as our matte. The actual video play, I'm going to put the resolution at about 1/3 so that I can play it relatively fast. Okay, it's taking its sweet time. So it's like a big splat of ink going across the screen like that. And it just works with 2 different layers. So let's see how that cooks. Right, so let's just stop that there. So that's what the video looks like, right? So if you look at the video, it plays out, bam, splatter of ink, right? Black to white. Now if we make this invisible and we're using the Luma matte, here's what happens. You're basically using the video as a mask, right? But it's really a matte. Now if you were to change this from Luma matte to Alpha matte, right, you're not going to see anything because the entire video has pixels in here, and that's why it shows everything as one thing. So it really depends on what kind of effect you want to have. So let me see if I can find one effect I really wanted to do. Hold on, we're almost done, guys. It's okay, it's okay. Downloads. Can I find that smoke? Can I really find that smoke? Doesn't look like it. Right, but you could also use, for example, find footage of fog and smoke. Create this really cool effect, you know, like the words are just kind of nice and stuff. If I could show you an example, let's delete this, and I'm gonna pull in this fog background and just animate this across the screen. Unfortunately, this is not a video. Sorry.
It's gonna move back and forth.
I'm just gonna move it left and right. So let's say, for example, I change the positioning of this. Start here, probably even over here, and just have it come over here, right? Just move it across, just like this, right? And what kind of Mac do we need to use for this one?
Second
Alpha?
no,
Luma, right? Because we have black and white and grayscale. So I'm going to hide the layer. So you have to hide the layer for the effect to really take place. So now it looks like this. Now if it was like a video now, that would be way cooler. We can also change it to inverted so you can see how it would look. It's kind of more, you know, creepy looking. So that's it for masking and mats, and I hope you learned something. Bye. Yes, question. On the title sequence? No. You can use it, but I would recommend because you're looking for flat style graphics, you don't want to put in anything that detracts from it being like flat and solid and clean. Yeah. So that's all, blokes.